The Blue Mountains are full of magic. In Katoomba there's even a winter magic festival where everyone dresses up and has a parade, sometimes in the snow. The snow can be pretty magical. But there's magic at other times of the year as well. In spring, for example, I've always thought that massed blossom is magical, especially cherry blossom. And especially when it starts to fall. Nature is magical in other ways too, like these rocks in Wentworth Falls, which look like the petrified vertebrae and scales and droppings of some gigantic fossilised dinosaur. Or like these weird and wonderful tree roots. In Katoomba, there's even a cliff called Witch's Leap, which looks like a classic witch's face. All the forest around Witch's Leap is very magical. There's a bridge and caves. There are hollow trees. There's even an odd little wishing well near the forest entrance that looks a bit magical. I need a bit of magic in my life because sometimes I write books with magic in them. Like, for example, The Paradise Trap, which is about a boy whose mum buys a magic caravan, which has a basement with doors in it that lead to your dream holiday, but of course it's actually a trap. And the Bogle books, they're all about magical monsters. And these are Ali's Ghost Hunters. I don't know if ghosts would count as magic, the paranormal, possibly bad magic. I tend to insert my magic into very realistic scenarios because the more realism you have in these books about magic, the more real the magic seems. I actually find magic is more a thing I associate with childhood, and it's harder to find when you're as old as I am, but it's not impossible as long as you keep your eye out. For instance, I've always felt that there's a spark of magic in carnivorous plants. Plants like sundews. Then there are the bowers built by satin bowerbirds. I've seen a female sitting in the little tufted bower while the ink blue male paraded around in front of her, dancing and singing and picking up bits of the blue stuff he'd collected. How could you not think that was magic? There are other things that some people might not find magical, but I do, like street libraries, for instance. There are a lot of street libraries in the mountains. And sometimes people up here make their houses magical in various ways. But if I'm looking for that magical feeling in any kind of weather at any time of the year, my best bet is to go to a magical mountains shop. Lura's Cabinet of Curiosities is one of them. It stocks the most extraordinary range of things for adults and children. It's a very magical place. Another magical mountain shop is Odd Mountain Oddities, which you reach by climbing a mysterious flight of stairs. The proprietor makes her own very beautiful cards, and she also produces her own t-shirts, and there are some lovely pins and badges that she also makes, and she sells very mysterious looking locally made candles as well. There's also a magical fairy tale cottage in Lura called Bygone Beautys, which is a shop and tea rooms and a teapot museum. Even the carpet has teapots on it. The shop sells all kinds of things: cards, antiques, fans, jewellery, souvenirs, teapots, of course. Tea cozies, and naturally, tea. But the most magical part of Bygone Beautys is definitely the museum, because you don't often see teapots transformed into animals, people, buildings, puddings. It's very, very magical. I was going to talk about a book called The Magic Pudding, which was written about 100 years ago by a guy called Norman Lindsay, because Norman Lindsay used to live not far from here, and his old house, which is beautiful, is owned by the National Trust of Australia, and you can visit it. And I thought I might visit it and take some photos, but apparently, according to the National Trust, if I want to show images from the magic pudding, I have to get special permission. And, you know, I have a literary agent, and getting special permission is really difficult. So I've thought, no, I won't talk about the magic pudding. I will, however, talk about some of the other books about magic that I've liked. I can't show you the Narnia books because my daughter's taken them. But of course, when I was younger, one of my favourite magic books was The Story of the Amulet by E. Nesbit. And when I was about 12 or 13, I adored the Mary Stuart Merlin books. This one's the first one, The Crystal Cave. Such a great book. All about Merlin and Arthur and all that, but very realistic, but with magic. And of course, The Lord of the Rings, one of the great magic books. I dip into that still every so often. And also, I thought I'd quickly mention this book, The Orchid Thief, which is not about magic, but it is about how orchids can affect people as if they're magic. And I am a bit affected at the moment because my little finger orchid has flowered, and that's really magical. When I saw that my orchid had flowered, I thought I might go into the bush and check if others had, and they had. I found orchids everywhere, but it's a real treasure hunt because they're so tiny. They're fairy-sized flowers. They're also weirdly fussy about where they grow. It has to be really bad soil. This one's on a path, and this one's on the side of a cliff. This one's actually quite close to a greenwood orchid. And if you think I'm getting overexcited about some pretty modest magic, check this out. Another thing that's flowered in my garden is my Wahneta. And that isn't a shy, retiring flower. It's a big, bold, beautiful flower. It's the queen of the bush. I find it magical because the first time I ever saw one, I was in the bush and I walked into a clearing and there was the queen of the bush, the Wahneta, standing at the top of a long stalk.